came from Venus. I'm feeling way too hot, high-headed, I got a fever. I came from heaven and made it through hell, and now I got ether. Should've believed him. Damn, you should've believed him.
She took a dab of that till she had cataracts. Grabbed the rack, she had a MAGA hat. I tapped the back to Adam's app. I told her mag the rack. My dick couldn't even fit half the cap in a Cadillac. Take a dab of wax with a battle axe, not your average cat.
Why don't they give me a break? I learn from mistakes, I'm earning my place, yeah. Man, I'm just raising the stakes. I'm tired of just waiting, losing my pace, yeah.
I'm in the whip.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to Naughty Love Movement. It's your girl, Nikki, bringing you the latest and trending topics, celebrity gossip, and recap on your favorite reality TV shows. And also, I vlog my lifestyle. So before we get into today's video, Naughty Crew, you already know, I need y'all to hit that like, subscribe, and that bell button so you can be notified when I update content to my channel. And also please leave comments. I always enjoy interacting with the comments. We have fun in the comments. I love hearing everyone's opinion. So keep up the good work, you guys. And we are on the path to 1K subscribers. Okay, I'm so excited. We're slowly but surely getting there, but I appreciate all of your support thus far. And please remember to follow us on our social media platforms. So today, I'm diving into a deep subject that is near and dear to my heart, you guys. So I really want to hear what you have to say about the content I'm about to get into. Just a little trigger warning. We're going to be talking about things that are very triggering to the emotion. So I just want to give fair warning. So let's get into it. So I'm going to set today's video off with setting a story platform. So imagine you getting up, you going to work every day, doing your normal function, and as you go along, you start to make friends, and not friends. I'm talking like acquaintances. Like you start to develop a friendly rapport with the people that work around you. All right. And so imagine if one of those persons started to cross the line. All right. And it started off with a little harassment, and then it escalated to the point of SA and R word on site at the job. Okay. Recently, Governor Hochul in New York signed an act for adult victims of SA and R word so that they could come forward, because in recent years, they have found that it takes time for the victims to come forward. And the Statute of Limitations in New York, it only was for 6 years. And that didn't allot enough time for the victims to come forward. So she recently signed the act to protect those victims. And so that she created a platform for those victims to come forward. All right. I happen to know a person that was directly affected by this, and I had to go through that situation with the person. So imagine this happens to you on the job site, and you take the proper procedures. You go to the hospital, they have to do their examination. You call the police arrive. And imagine being treated as though this is your fault, it happened. And that happened to the person. I felt horrible for her, because they basically, the New York Special Victim Division, basically re-victimized the person I know badly. And it was like the SA happened all over again to her. And she was devastated. I mean, they treated her like trash on the street, basically. You know, and they were very cold. They weren't even compassionate. All right. So recently, the New York division the Victims Division, excuse me, is under investigation now. So I have some articles for my Naughty crew so that we can get into it together. Drop down into my comments. Let me know what you think about that situation. Because if you go to work, you're supposed to feel safe. So Governor Hochul signed Adult Survivor Act, and this happened May 24th of 2022. Governor Kathy Hochul today signed the Adult Survivors Act, creating a one-year look-back window for survivors of SA that occurred when they were over the age of 18 to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred. That's right. So for all you predators out there, the floodgates are open, okay? Here's what she had to say.
That is why we are here today, and I'm very proud to recognize two outstanding public servants. And I have to say, I've probably done more bill signings with these two as the co-sponsors than any other two legislators, Senator Brad Holman and Senator Linda Rosenthal, who are the sponsors of the bill. If there is a cause to be championed, you want to make sure that it gets in their hands, because they have an incredible record of success for fighting for people whose voices have been suppressed for far too long. I also want to recognize some incredibly courageous survivor advocates, Marissa Hochstetter, Andrew Dixon.
So that's the point I want to make. Like, the person I know that went through this, ultimately nothing happened. It was basically just swept under the rug. Like, it never even made it to the courts. And that person had to carry that pain with feeling like they were never going to get justice. So that's what this act is all about.
All you have done to make sure that the voices of those you represent finally are listened to. So let's give them a round of applause here today. Today is a good day. Today is a righteous day, because it is a victory for justice, and it is long overdue.
Absolutely.
So many people have fought for this to finally have their voices heard, including many of those who are with us here today. And I want to thank them for their courage, for their dedication, and carrying on this fight. And I remember back in 2017, I could feel a seismic shift occurring. It was the genesis of the Me Too movement. And people started finally talking about their experiences and holding people in power accountable. And I thank them, because those issues need to be raised up, need to be addressed, and society need to acknowledge what had happened to far too many people. And I thought then, we're finally putting this behind us. People don't have to live in the shadows any longer. They can come forth with their story without fear of retribution or the shame that's sometimes associated with just being an innocent person and thinking you had something to do with an assault. And I also thought in 2017, it was a time when, as lieutenant governor, I was championing the fact around the state that it was the centennial of women's right to vote in the state. And I talked about the courageous women who had put their voices forward to ensure that women were no longer treated as the property of men, that they would have control over their body and their decisions, and really have control over their destinies. So that was what I was celebrating. The same time we were talking about how once and for all, people who endured the unthinkable were finally liberated. And so those brave people speaking the truth 5 years ago followed in the footsteps of those brave women. And so has every single person who's come forward since that time. So today we are surrounded by survivors and truth tellers. And finally, we are starting to right a wrong that has existed for far too long. Because when it came to sexual assault, our laws were protecting the abusers more than not, specifically when it came to something known as the Statute of Limitations, which sounds harmless. Statute of Limitations, what could be wrong with that? except it was a barrier to justice for too long. Because there's so much trauma that comes with being the survivor of a sexual assault. Again, you have that shame. Did I do something wrong? Did I provoke this? What happened? Sometimes there's fears, and there's loss of memory. There's so many reasons why it could take someone years, literally decades, to come forward with the truth about what happened to them. And all of those reasons are legitimate. And none of them is an invalidation of their experience, their trauma, and what really occurred. And through the Child Victims Act, we finally saw people liberated and coming forth. And again, we heard their stories here and in newspapers all across our states and our nation, and talked about what happened when people were minors. But it forgot a lot of people. What about the people who were adults when they experienced this trauma? We didn't do enough to protect those individuals until today. So I'm so proud, in a matter of minutes, that I will sign the Adult Survivors Act with our incredible sponsors, Brad Hoylman, Linda Rosenthal, Assembly member. It creates a 1-year look back window for adult survivors of sexual assault to file a civil lawsuit against their abusers. For this 1-year period, lawsuits will not be barred by the statute of limitations or notice of claim requirement. Also, it will allow for there to be civil actions be revived that were previously dismissed due to being time barred or failure to file a notice of claim. It will not be dismissed any longer on those grounds. So the trauma that comes with experiencing sexual assault does not arbitrarily adhere to a limit of time, nor can justice be held to a period of time. And going forth after today in New York, it will not. And this is personal to me. My mother was an advocate for survivors of domestic violence for decades. Literally, I was back in high school, college, when my mother became a champion, and they used to call them victims of wife beatings. And the laws were so stacked against the women in those situations. And I remember my mother, who just had no experience in this, but she came to Albany to insist that there be hearings in our hometown of Buffalo to allow these stories to come forth and understand why the laws favored the men when there was a situation. Literally, someone could call 911 and ask for police help when there's been an abuse in the home. The police would come to the door, and if the husband answered the door and said, everything's fine here, the police officer legally could just walk away and say, case closed. That is what happened for so long. So for my mother and our family, this was a deeply personal cause. And she understood how to help survivors and understand the impact of trauma on individual lives. And we worked together to form a home for victims of domestic violence so they could have a place of healing and recover. So we're going to continue supporting those kind of programs, but also New York State is the only state in the nation with a cabinet level agency dedicated to addressing gender-based violence. So I'm proud today to be carrying on my mother's fight. My administration is carrying on the fight, but in so doing, it's carrying on the fight for all of you. A fight that you did not back down from when times got tough and you just felt there were too many doors closing. You never gave up. And it was that resiliency of spirit that we celebrate here today. So those who thought they got away with horrific crimes they committed, I just have one message.
We coming for you.
Your time is up.
Mm-hmm.
Your victims will see you in court,
Mm-hmm.
and you will be brought to justice. Thank you.
So there you have it, you guys. And the laws in this country, when it comes to SA, the R word, they're extremely chauvinistic and unrealistic. And I'm glad they are taking a look back and seeing, like, hey, we need to change this, okay? So as far as the person I know, they are being proactive because of this act. They reached out to the person. And so I was like sad for the person and overjoyed at the same time, because I'm like, finally, this person's going to get justice. Other people spoke, like the assembly speaker spoke, and they basically said the doors of the courthouse are open, and please flood. They want all the victims to come forward so that they can meet their abusers in court. So I think this is a great thing for survivors. I just want to break down the Adult Survivor Act, builds on Governor Hochul's steadfast and ongoing commitment to protecting and supporting survivors of SA and DV. Earlier this year, the governor announced nearly $24 million for the DV and SA programs, including $16 million for 83 DV programs and shelters, and $7.6 million for 50 R crisis centers and SA programs. So I think this is great. It's needed, you guys. And I will have the link in my description box for this article if you guys want to check it out. But on the other hand, as a result of this act and this bill being signed, the New York Special Victims Division, the New York SVU, is under investigation, you guys, okay? Because apparently they recognize patterns on how they mishandled these situations. So this is from the United States Department of Justice, okay? The link will be below if you guys want to check this article out in depth, okay? So the Justice Department announced an investigation of New York City Police Department Special Victim Unit. So a comprehensive review of policy, procedures, and trainings, including SVD's investigation of SA crimes and treatment of survivors. Like I said, finally, justice. All right. So the Justice Department announced today that it has opened a civil pattern or practice investigation into the Special Victim Division of the New York City Police Department. The investigation will assess whether the SPD engages in a pattern of practice of gender bias policing. The investigation will include a comprehensive review of the policy, procedures, and training for SVD investigation of SA crimes, including how SVD interacts with survivors and witnesses, collects evidence, and completes investigation. Any steps NYPD has taken to address deficiencies in its handling of SA crimes, how SVD allocates staffing and other resources in the service and support offered to survivors of SA. As a part of this investigation, the Justice Department officials will reach out to community groups and members of the public to learn about their experience with SVD. So this is the team that contacted the person I know. So they are proactively working on it. So all you predators out there, y'all better get y'all lawyer money up and your bail money together because they coming for you. All right, so the department received information alleging deficiencies at SVD that have persisted for more than a decade, depriving survivors and the public of the prompt through an effective investigation needed to protect public safety. These deficiencies allegedly include failing to conduct basic investigation steps and instead shaming and abusing survivors and re-traumatizing them during investigation. And this is exactly what happened to the person I know. And I think the Special Victim Division is about to have their ass handed to them, okay? So the Special Litigation Section of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division, the Civil Rights Unit, and the Civil Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District, New York, and the Civil Rights Team in the Civil Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York will jointly conduct this investigation. Individuals with relevant information are encouraged to contact the department via email. And I'll have that information in my description box, Knotty Crew. So drop down into my comments. Let me know what y'all think about this investigation, because I recognize this firsthand when the person I know was going through this tragedy. And they basically traumatized the person again. And I thought it was unfortunate. And she never had the pleasure of justice being served. And that's what I talk about it all the time. The laws in this country are so chauvinistic and they need to be updated to the times because they're meant to discriminate and re-victimize victims over and over again. I too have been a victim of violent crimes and SA. So yeah, I still never got justice for my recent trauma that I went through. They basically just called me like, the case is closed. Okay. And it's a part of you, you know, yeah, I'm working through and I'm letting it go or whatever, but it's a part of you that still just holds on to that. Like, cause it's just like, who was it? I didn't know where it came from. And then in the case of the person I know in the SA situation, she knew that person. She worked around that person every day. So I am happy this act is in effect. I hope the court system is able to keep up with the demand because there's going to be a lot of people coming forward. And see, that's when the wheels of justice slow down, when it's that flood. So I hope the court system in New York is ready for it so that people really can get swift justice and they don't have to continue to carry their traumas for years to come. I mean, they suffered enough. So drop down into my comments, Naughty Crew. Please let me know what y'all think about this. I want to hear your feelings and thoughts on it. I really feel like we have to continue to fight for change for our laws in this country. And this comes on the tail heels of Roe versus Wade being reversed. Like, I mean, it's just ass backwards. You give us our rights to choose over our body. In this situation, like the SA cases and our cases, where a woman may want to have the option to choose to not move forward with a pregnancy because it came out of a tragic situation. Drop down into my comments, 90 Crew. Please remember to hit that like, subscribe, and that bell button. Until next time, 90 Crew, I'm out. One.
Real niggas came from Mars, y'all came from Venus. I'm feeling way too hot-headed, I got a fever. I came from heaven and made it through hell, now I got ether. Should've believed them, damn, you should've believed them.
She took a dab.